is gallium. It's one of the elements of the periodic table, which is this thing here. And if you're not a scientist, you probably only know this as a chart you're supposed to memorize in high school. But what if instead of being a boring chart, well, it was something that you could touch and feel? That's what we're going to try to do today, but is it even possible? Well, I'm not sure yet.
Hey.
We're doing a video about the periodic table of the elements.
Yeah.
I'm asking people how many of them they think we can find.
High 70s.
Maybe 20 to 30, but I'm optimistic.
I'm hoping for a lot more.
Ballpark 20.
There's 118 in total.
Right.
And I'm gonna get all 118.
Well, you can collect all of them.
No.
We did a video on this, remember?
At what point would your periodic table start killing you? Exposure to toxic smoke would have already killed you. It would be like a nuclear bomb exploding over and over again.
I kind of remember, it's been a long time, but Bill Gates has the entire collection in his office. Why can't I?
So why don't you just go to Christina, get a budget from her? Let's motivate you a little bit. So
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna collect too many, but let's say you can collect 80. If you collect under 80 elements,
Yeah,
or if you go over budget,
yeah.
how about you eat cheese and eggs every week?
Here's the thing, I don't eat cheese or eggs. I don't really.
Are you gonna eat the sandwich or not?
If I don't get 80 elements, I will
Yes.
eat an egg and cheese sandwich.
Or if you go over budget.
I'm not gonna go over budgets.
Okay, deal?
Deal.
Despite the fact that everyone I spoke to thought it was going to be impossible, I still wanted to figure out if there was a way we could do this, so I went to talk to a chemistry expert for some advice.
It is pretty impossible to make your own periodic table at home without specialized equipment, and I don't advertise it.
Okay, well, is there any way to create it with everyday items, maybe?
If you tried, you could. Majority of elements, you would probably collect them, if not in pure form, then in some kind of mixture, but
That was all I needed to hear. So with $500 in my pocket
Okay, deal. Go for it.
and the determination not to eat an egg sandwich,
It's like spongy. It's like chewing a rubber band.
it was time to get to work.
To build our periodic table, we're going to go row by row. I expect that later elements of the periodic table will be a lot harder and more expensive to find, but we don't have to worry about that for right now. The earlier things are going to be a little bit cheaper, easier to find or borrow from someone, and that's going to save us a lot of money. First row is easy. Hydrogen is found in pretty much every living thing, including plants. And helium can be found in balloons. Luckily, it's cheap.
It also makes you talk funny.
Now we're on to a row with some solids. And again, these are pretty cheap and easy and they can be found around the office, my house, or just outside. Things like lithium, beryllium, and boron can all be found in things like batteries, bikes, and eye drops. The bike we're going to borrow from a friend of mine. As for things like carbon and oxygen, well, those things are everywhere. Like, without them, we'd all be dead. So we're just gonna cross those off the list. Nitrogen is in our soil.
Fluorine is in our toothpaste.
And this neon sign here has, well, you guessed it, neon in it, but it took up a huge chunk of our budget. Now we were on to row 3, and by this time, I gotta say, I was feeling really good about this. It was super easy. We managed to get all the things on our list so far, and we stayed on budget. This is for the haters and the ones who doubted me.
What are you doing? Well, you kind of up my lunch there.
Well, we're doing a thing for what
Okay.
if?
I do not care.
One of the elements of the
Okay.
Yeah.
Buy me Chipotle.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. We'll buy you. It's coming out of the budget, though. Okay, now time for a quick trip to the grocery store. Turns out a lot of the items on this row are things we can find in different kinds of food. I did some reading earlier about the periodic table, and I think now is about the time we should talk a little bit more about it and tell you what it's all about. The periodic table was developed as a map for scientists to help them understand what the elements do and what they're for. It didn't start like this either. It looked like this at one point, and then this. There's even other versions that don't look like a table, but more like a globe, and they wrap around. But this one, the one that's popular now, was invented by a guy named Dmitry Mendeleev in 1869. And Mendeleev didn't just list the elements or put them in groups. That had all been done before. Mendeleev's contributions came from being able to find elements that previously didn't exist. Weird, I know, but stick with me here. He figured to arrange the table periodically, but as he was doing that, he noticed gaps in the table. Well, that's because at the time, only 60 elements were considered for the periodic tables. Based on Mendeleev's table, he knew there'd be over 100 elements after he took into account all the atomic weights. Looking at the chemical and physical properties of the elements next to his gaps, Mendeleev was able to predict which elements would exist in the future. And his predictions were spot on. He predicted gallium right down to its atomic weight and properties. And over the next 20 years, he predicted the existence of other elements like scandium and germanium. Those were discovered after he died. So I guess I've got Mendeleev to thank for this scavenger hunt and for that egg and cheese sandwich if I lose. Oh, and by the way, we got all the stuff we needed for row 4. It was a bit expensive, as groceries are these days, but we managed to stay on budget. Somehow we also managed to find arsenic. Now, I always thought this was strictly a poison, but apparently it's in mushrooms, although not in a quantity enough to poison someone. I hope. Full disclosure, I meant to do that. It's too bad that's tasty stuff. Okay, now we were on to row 5. We were able to get a couple of these elements, but as we went on, they were increasingly rare and hard to find. Like the element xenon, which is found in cameras. Or tellurium. This element is found mostly in fridges. But then we ran into some issues. Okay, I'm seeing here antimony is found mostly in bullets. Well, we're in Canada, so that's not likely going to happen. And technetium looks to only really be used in X-ray machines. You need to go for an X-ray anytime soon? Yeah, well, that's also out of the budget. So we were able to get a couple of these elements, but there were a bunch others that were way out of reach. They were either too hard to find or way too expensive. Now we were on to row 6, and here's where things started to get tricky. We have some old favorites on here like gold, lead, and mercury. Those were easy to get. Some of the elements we had to borrow, others we had to buy, but they were getting more and more expensive. And then we started to get to the rare earth metals. Not only are these metals rare, but they're also really difficult to extract. And because of that, they're only used in certain real-world products. Like thulium is really only used in laser surgery, and again, that's out of our budget. But we were still able to get a couple of these things, like europium in televisions and terbium in fluorescent lamps. Okay, we're starting to approach the end of row 6, and things were starting to get a little weird. We've covered the solids, liquids, gases, but now we were starting to get into radioactive materials, and those are stupidly expensive. And not to mention, downright impossible to find. Take astatine, for example. Scientists say at max, there's only 25 grams of it on Earth at any one given time. And even if you were able to find it, it would decay in less than a day. And the weirdness didn't stop there. On to row 7, we were really only able to get one of these elements. It was radium, which is found in some watches. And the rest are pretty much exclusive to nuclear reactors or stuff we just can't get a hold of. And then there are these elements here. These things are really, really strange. They barely exist, and they're only used for research purposes. Their use, if any, is unknown, and some of them have only existed in the form of a couple of atoms for barely a second.
And with the periodic table now complete, it's time to see how many items I've managed to collect. Oh, let's hope it's 80.
Okay, Marina, I think I'm ready. I got it all.
Okay, I don't think it looks like 80 to me here. Do you think you got 80? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 21, 22, 23, 24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. Okay, that's 30. Okay, we're at 40, 41. Oh, these are missing. Look at that.
Well, technetium, we just can't get it.
61, 62, 63.
Yeah.
That's lead. Are you sure about this?
It's a representation of lead. Of course, nuts would never be made of lead because their lead is pliable and that wouldn't work for nuts.
4, 65. Where'd you get this one? And 66.
66, yeah.
I only see 66. You know what that means?
Egg sandwich. But we stayed completely under budget. We could probably, since I saved some money, maybe I could slide it to you and you could keep it.
and I wouldn't eat an egg sandwich.
No. We agreed that 80 and you stay under budget.
I got an astatine and a tennessine. Do you
No,
want?
but do you have one more of this?
Yes, I have 2 more.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay,
that's
well,
68.
Sure. No, but you gotta bring them on the table.
Okay, one second. Okay, these are halogen lamps that go for shooting TV camera lights. That's 1.
67.
Yeah. Okay, count it out loud. Shout it loud and proud. 68.
You're still missing 12.
So what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do about it? You're gonna eat every cheese sandwich. That's what you're gonna do. Let's open it up. It has egg and it has cheese.
It is not looking good for me. I'm not looking forward. I'm not looking forward. I brought along a bucket here because I'm probably gonna chuck my guts out. But it turns out it's pretty much impossible to collect an exact copy of the periodic table, and that's because a lot of these ones in the bottom line, the actinoids, are radioactive, and a lot of these in the 100 row are used for research purposes only. So even that bookcase full of periodic table elements that Bill Gates has in his office, those are probably just representations in the same way that we use these nuts to represent lead. He doesn't have all those radioactive materials in his office. It would probably be illegal. So we really shouldn't feel too bad because we came up with 68 out of the 118 elements on the periodic table, and we came in way under budget, so there's a good chance that I don't have to eat that egg sandwich anyway. So before you watch me suffer here, the least you could do is press like and subscribe there. We're trying to get to 10 million followers this year, and that'll help us be able to do a lot more things like this, putting together the periodic table, some bigger ideas on what if this year. You really want me to do it, right? I mean, people live through this, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not poison. Here we go. I don't eat cheese or eggs. It's like spongy. It's like chewing a rubber band.
Was that real?
That was all real.
Oh my god. That was some water.
So it's probably for the best that we are not able to recreate the periodic table, because we'd be met with a lot of explosions, I'd be dead, and we'd likely set off a nuke. This experiment didn't work out quite the best for us, neither did this experiment, but let us know in the comments what you think we should do next, and hopefully it doesn't have anything to do with disgusting foods or swallowing something. Maybe make it a little bit easier on me, please. But that's a story for another What If. Hey What Ifers, thanks very much for making it all the way to the end of the video. I want to give you a chance to win the shirt that I wore in the video. Well, not this exact shirt, but one that's clean and one that's in your size. I also want to give you a chance of getting a Zoom call with myself and the What If crew. All you have to do is leave us a comment, tell us what you think we should do for our next in real life video. Best one wins.